Hey, what's up everybody? It's your boy Steven, and in this video I'll be working out College Board Practice Test 1, Section 3, No Calculator Math section. Let's get started. Alright, number 1. If x minus 1 over 3 is equal to k, and k is equal to 3, what is the value of x? Okay, pretty simple question, right? X minus 1 over 3 is equal to k, which we know k is 3, so x minus 1 over 3 is equal to 3. We'll multiply by 3 on both sides to cancel out the 3 here. X minus 1 is equal to 9. Add 1 on both sides to cancel the minus 1 here. X is equal to 10. Choice D. All right, number 2. For I is equal to square root of negative 1, what is the sum 7 plus 3i plus negative 8 plus 9i? All right, so obviously we're going to add the like terms with each other. So we'll add the 7 with negative 8 and the 3i with 9i, right? So 7 plus negative 8 plus 3i plus 9i. So 7 plus negative 8, that's negative 1. 3i plus 9i, that's 12i, which leads to your answer choice A. Number 3. On Saturday afternoon, Armin sent M text messages each hour for 5 hours, and Tyrone sent P text messages each hour for 4 hours. Which of the following represents the total number of messages sent by Armin and Tyrone on Saturday afternoon? Okay, so we're looking for what? The total number of messages. So focus on this unit right here, because that's really going to help you to solve problems, especially when they're long like this, right? So I don't know what these answers are, but what do I know for sure? They better all be in the units of number of messages, right? Because that's technically what the question's asking for. So let's take a look at this variable m, right? It says m text messages each hour. So that's m messages per hour, right? So I'm just going to write the units. M messages per hour for how many hours? For 5 hours, right? So 5 hours. That's for Armin. And for Tyrone, it was T or P messages per hour or each hour for 4 hours, right? And we want total number of messages. So whatever my answer is, it better be in the unit of messages, right? So let's take a look at this top first, right? Let's look at this top. M messages per hour for 5 hours. I mean, what do you think I have to do in order to cancel out all these units so I'll have messages at the end of the day? Right, hour and hour. I should probably cancel those, right? How would I cancel this hour on the bottom and this hour on the top? Multiply, right? Then that'll cancel, right? And what do we have over here? 5m messages, right? Because that's the only unit I have left. Same goes with the bottom. If I multiply these two, the hours will cancel, so it'll leave me p messages. So that'll be 4p total messages. So we want the total number of messages sent by both of them, right? So what do? That's for Armin, that's for Tyrone. 5m, 4p, we just add them, which leads to answer choice C. Number 4, Kathy is a repair technician for a phone company. Each week she receives a batch of phones that need repairs. The number of phones that she has left to fix at the end of each day can be estimated with the equation P is equal to 108 minus 23D, where P is the number of phones left and D is the number of days she has worked that week. What is the meaning of the value 108 in this equation? Okay, so let's take a look at this equation over here, right? P is equal to 108 minus 23D. All right, we kind of talked about this in the previous problem where we focused on the units, right? So P is the number of phones left. So P is in the unit of number of phones, which means 108 minus 23D. I don't know what they are just yet, But what do I know for sure? When I subtract these two, it better be giving me the unit of number of phones at the end of the day, right? So 108 better be in the unit of phones, number of phones. And 23D better be also in the unit of number of phones. So when I subtract number of phones minus number of phones, I will have number of phones for the variable P here, right? So let's think about this 108 and go back to this problem. It says each week she receives a batch of phones that need repairs. So she's got certain number of phones to fix. And then as she goes, as the day passes and she repairs phones, the number will go down, right? So let's take a look at this equation once again then. 108 minus 23D, what can we tell? She probably starts with this many phones. And since D is the number of days she has worked, 23D, that probably represents all the number of phones that she fixes as days pass. So 108, what can we guess about this number? Probably the number of phones that she would start with at the beginning of each week, right? Probably the batch of phones that she receives every week. So let's go through the choices. A, Kathy will complete the repairs within 108 days. Once again, this is what you should be looking at and get rid of this choice. Why? Because we're looking for number of phones as the unit, right? Kathy starts each week with 108 phones to fix. That's exactly what we just said. C, Kathy repairs phones at a rate of 108 per hour. Once again, wrong unit. Wrong unit. We're looking for number of phones as the unit. So choice C is out. D, Kathy repairs phones at a rate of 108 per day. Once again, wrong unit. So you can get rid of all these choices. Did you just realize? If you just knew the fact that this problem should be answered with the unit of number of phones, you could have gotten rid of A, get rid of C, and get rid of D. You actually didn't even have to solve this problem or even take a close look at this problem, because all you're looking for is number of phones as your unit in your correct answer choice. All right, number 5. X squared y minus 3y squared plus 5xy squared minus negative x squared y plus 3xy squared minus 3y squared. Which of the following is equivalent to the expression above? All right, so simple problem, just adding the like terms, right? So x squared y, we'll add that with x squared y over here. So x squared y minus, or x squared y minus negative x squared y. And then for this one, minus 3y squared minus negative 3y squared, and I'll write it on the bottom, and plus 5xy squared minus plus 3xy squared. All right, so minus and minus, that becomes plus, minus and minus, that becomes plus. So x squared y plus x squared y, that's 2x squared y. Negative 3y squared plus 3y squared, they cancel each other. 5xy squared minus 3xy squared, that's plus 2xy squared, which leads to my answer choice C. Now, let me give you guys a little tip here on this problem to do it just a little bit faster than you would normally do like this, right? Just go ahead and look at the terms, right? So first of all, you got 3 different terms on both of them. It's probably very likely that your answer would not be something like A. That's only one term. That means the other 2 terms got deleted. On top of that, x squared y squared. You don't see any x squared y squared on this problem, which means this is probably not your answer, right? So A we can easily get rid of. And just go ahead and look at the terms. Instead of writing it all out like this, since this is a timed test, you can just go ahead and simply be like, okay, x squared y, x squared y. Okay, I see that they're being added. Minus 3y squared minus negative 3y squared, that's probably going to get canceled. Which means When I found out that y squared term gets canceled, well, first of all, we got rid of a. And I just realized that y squared term will be gone in my answer. That carries on y squared term. That's out. That doesn't, so I'll keep that. That carries on y squared term, so that's out. I actually didn't have to do the rest of the problem, or more like I just didn't have to solve the xy squared part, because I realized that y squared just got canceled, which means there's really no point for me to continue to do this problem, because I see that a doesn't make any sense and b and d both carry the y squared term, which means my answer has to be C. Number 6, h is equal to 3a plus 28.6. A pediatrician uses the model above to estimate the height h of a boy in inches in terms of the boy's age a in years between the ages of 2 and 5. Based on the model, what is the estimated increase in inches of a boy's height each year? All right, let's take a look at this equation. H is equal to 3a plus 28.6. So something's gotta increase in this model, right? Something has to increase, and something probably stays the same. What stays the same? Probably the boy's height that the boy started with, right? All right, so let's take a look. H is equal to 3a. Well, that's got a variable right there, plus 28.6. Okay, this 28.6, this will never change in this equation, no matter what. What's only going to change is this 3a, right? Depending on what your a is. If your a is 1, then that's going to be 3 times 1. If your a is 2, that's going to be 3 times 2, and so on, right? What are we asked to find? Based on the model, what is the estimated increase in inches of a boy's height each year? Whatever increase or decrease, whatever is something that changes is a variable, right? Over here, right? Because this 28.6, this guy won't change for life, right? But 3a will change based on how much your a changes, which means this is what's going to change. So imagine the boy, well, the boy apparently is between 2 and 5. So imagine the boy is 3 years old. A will be 3, which means this is going to be 3 times 3 here. Imagine the boy is 4 years old. It's going to be 3 times 4 here, right? So let's compare it, right? So when the boy is 3 years old, right, it's going to be 3 times 3 plus 28.6, which will lead you to 37.6, because that'll be 9 over there. And if the boy is 4-year-old, then it's going to be 4 for the a, which means he's going to be 40.6. The difference between this one and this one, that's 1 year apart, that's 3 inches. So my answer is A. Now here, I actually plugged in 3 for A and 4 for A and actually solved the two and found the difference, which is unnecessarily too many steps. Just look at the equation. We just talked about how this is the one that's changing, right? If I increase 1 for the A, well, that's being multiplied by 3, which probably indicates that every year the boy is increasing by 3 inches right here, right? Does that make sense? Because, once again, this is a fixed number versus this is a variable number, right? Depending on your A value, right? So without going through all these steps, you can just take a look at this and be like, oh, okay, so it's 3A. Every time I increase A by 1, it's going to be multiplied by 3, which indicates that the boy will be increasing 3 inches every year. Number 7, m is equal to, whoa, r over 1200 times 1 plus r over 1200 to the n power all over 1 plus r over 1200 to the n power minus 1 times p. Dang, that's a long equation. What is this about? The formula above gives the monthly payment m needed to pay off a loan of p dollars at r% annual interest over n months. Which of the following gives p in terms of m, r, and n? All right, first of all, I mean, do we need to really know this equation? I mean, for the life of me, this is SAT, right? And plus, we're all high school students, right? I mean, we don't have to worry about paying off our loans just yet. I mean, just wait till college for that nightmare, right? All right, so I don't want to really go through all this equation and actually try to understand it, because for the sake of SAT, I shouldn't be responsible for such a thing, right? So I'm going to look at this problem and be like, okay, so I'm trying to solve for P. Right now I have M is equal to something. M is equal to a whole bunch of all these. But now what do I want? According to the question, which of the following gives P? So now I want P is equal to whatever, right? Right now I have M is equal to all that, right? And I want that in this form. P is equal to something. Okay, so I need to move some things around. But that's just so much of a nightmare, right? So what do I want to do here? I like to take a shortcut. I like to, look at the problems in a way it looks a bit easier. So let me go ahead and try to rename these stupid things, right? It's just too much for me to handle, right? So for this entire thing, I'm just going to call it big X. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call the whole thing big X. And this entire thing over here, I'm just going to call that big Y, because I don't want to deal with it, right? And then for this entire thing over here on the bottom, I'm just going to call that big Z. Okay? So you know what that becomes then for me? All right. So that becomes, this now becomes M is equal to big X times big Y all over big Z, and then M over here. Oh, well, that's not M. P over here, right? And now we're solving for P. This looks much easier than that, doesn't it? It looks much simpler, much better to work with, just visually speaking, right? So I'm going to take this and move things around so I get P alone. So I need to cancel the Z. It's on the bottom, so I'll multiply on the top. I need to cancel these X and Y. They're on the top, so I'm going to multiply it on the bottom. So this is what I'm going to multiply on both sides. All right? Then what do I get? I get Z over X, Y, M is equal to P. That's not too bad, right? This doesn't look too bad, right? And now what do? All right, well, clearly you don't see this in your answer choice. So what do? For X, Y, and Z that were replaced in the beginning, just replace them back here. You see that how Z was that one? Okay. And X was that one. And Y was that one. And you just plug things in. Well, I don't want to write the whole thing because it's just too much, and I'm too lazy to write all that out. But I know that Z should be on top, and Z is this guy. So let's look for that guy being on top in my answer choices. That one, nope, because it's 1 plus r over 1200 to the n power minus 1 part, which is this one, but this is on the bottom, so I'm going to cancel the A. C, I don't even see anything even close to that, out. I don't even see anything close to that in D either, out. It's probably B. Let's just check. Okay, so that Z should be on top. That is on top. And these are the X and Y. All right, so that's my choice. Answer choice B. Please, when you guys take a look at a question like this, please do not be intimidated. For the sake of SAT, you should not be responsible to know such a loan payment freaking equation when you're only a high school student. And plus, this is number 7. It really should not be difficult. Please do not be intimidated. Just look at it. Just look at the equation and be like, okay, well, I see something similar in my answer choices. Okay, what's the easiest way to go about? How can I just replace those stupid terms into much simpler terms like this so I don't have to work through all these numbers out and write all those numbers out and waste all my time on this stupid timed test, right? So please do not be intimidated. Number 8, if A over B is equal to 2, what is the value of 4B over A? All right, so there are actually 2 different ways to go about it. I think they really take about the same time, but whatever you guys prefer, take your own approach. So I'll take approach number 1 and approach number 2. Okay, so I'm going to show you both ways. Whatever you like, just take it, okay? And just do it your way, okay? So approach number 1, it's just literally solving it. So a over b is equal to 2. I'm going to solve for a, right? So multiply by b on both sides, cancel that, and a is equal to 2b. And you know what I'm going to do with this? Plug it back in here. We're looking for 4b over a, right? And you know that a is 2b, so just plug it in here. 4b over 2b becomes, you can cancel the b's, you can cancel these guys, so that gives you 2. My answer is 2. Now, let me do approach number 2 before I circle the right answer, right? So approach number 2 would be something like this. You see how you're given a over b is equal to 2, but the question is really asking you something b over a, right? So you first got to flip them. So that's the way I'm going to look at it. So a over b is 2, and I'm going to write that 2 as 2 over 1, just because I'm going to flip it. So then b over a would be 1 over 2, right? And what is this? 4b over a. That's really same thing as 4 times b over a, isn't it? And you know b over a is 1/2. So 4 times 1/2, that's also 2. So my answer is C, 2. Whichever way you like, whichever approach you just felt more comfortable with, go ahead and do it that way. Number 9, 3x plus 4y is equal to negative 23. 2y minus x is equal to negative 19. What is the solution, xy, to the system of equations above? All right, so did you guys just realize that when I was reading this question, I was just naturally reading 2x minus y, but what does it instead say? 2y minus x, okay? So that's where some people could be making mistakes, probably people like me, right? Okay, so I'm gonna solve for the x and y, but once again, this is a timed test, and I don't want to waste my time because I'm already having troubles meeting the time requirement, right? So I'm going to look at this question and be like, okay, I need to solve for both x and y, but do I really need to solve for both of them? Take a look at your answer choices. Look at the y values. A, negative 2. B, negative 8. C, negative 6. D, negative 6. So imagine you solve for y first. You can't get the answer because you know what? Say the y comes out to be negative 6. Now you're between C and D. But take a look at the x values in the answer choices. Negative 5, 3, 4, 9. They all have different x values. What does that mean then? Do I want to solve for the x first or the y first? Probably the x first. Why is that? Because if I find out what x is, I can just go ahead and circle my answer right off the bat. I don't need to solve for the y. Because whatever my x comes out to be, they're all different x values. So I can be for sure that that's my answer, right? Well, if you have time, if you got plenty of time for this section, go ahead and find for both of them if that makes you feel more comfortable. But personally, if I'm running out of time, I'm not going to solve for the y when I solve for the x. And it's right there, okay? So I'm going to solve for the x instead of the y first. Okay, so let's first go ahead and put them in nice order instead of that. So 3x plus 4y is equal to negative 23. And negative x plus 2y is equal to negative 19. All I did is just I flipped these guys just so that I can look at it as, you know, a better picture. Once again, we just said we're going to solve for x, which means we want to cancel out the term y, right? We don't want to cancel the x. We want to cancel the y, right? So how do I cancel the 4y and 2y? I'll multiply the bottom one by negative 2. Then I get, well, the first one comes down as it is. The second part, negative 2 times negative x, that's positive 2x. That's going to be minus 4y as we intended. And negative 2 times negative 19, that's positive 38. That cancels. That's 5x. And 38 plus negative 23, which is 15. Cancel the 5's. X is equal to 3, which means my answer is probably B. Once again, for those people who feel nervous, oh my god, like I still have to solve for the y anyway, let's just do it, okay? I'll take this guy because it looks easier, right? So 2y minus x is 3. 3 is equal to negative 19. So 2y, we'll add 3 on both sides. So 2y is equal to negative 16. Y is equal to negative 8, which is over here, right? So, I mean, go ahead and solve for the y if you really want to, but for all those people out there who are having troubles with time, please save yourselves some time by not solving for the y, but only solving for the x, and just right off circling your answer. Number 10, g of x is equal to ax squared plus 24. For the function g defined above, a is a constant, and g of 4 is 8. What is the value of g of negative 4? All right, so this is a very typical problem that could either take you 2 minutes or 2 seconds. I'm going to first show you the 2-minute method. Well, I'm not going to take the 2 minutes, and I'll show you how that could be cut down to 2-second problem. So let's take a look at the problem. First of all, let me just go ahead and throw it out there. You guys have seen a bunch of stuff like f of x, g of x, p of x, and all that crap, right? All they just mean is y, okay? F of x, g of x, p of x, it just all means y, okay? So don't take it as something that's complicated. All right, so they say g of 4 is 8. So let's just go ahead and plug it in there. So we have g of x is equal to ax squared plus 24. It says g of 4 is 8, which means x is 4, because that's what's inside the parentheses. And g of 4, that's g of the whole thing, which is 8, so that must be 8. So this is 8 here, and they say x is 4. Right? Then we can probably solve for the 8 right here, right? So subtract 24 on both sides. Negative 16 is equal to 16a. Cancel the 16, a is equal to negative 1. I can go ahead and now plug it back in and then find the g of negative 4, right? So g of negative 4, because I know everything. A is negative 1. Negative 4 will be my x now, so negative 4 squared plus 24, right? Well, that's negative 1 times 16 plus 24. Negative 16 plus 24. It comes out to be 8. Wait a second. 8? Go back to the problem. G of 4 is 8. I just solved for g of negative 4, and it's still 8? What just went on, right? Well, take a look at your function, right? Take a look at this guy. You see how x is being squared? What are they only changing? G of 4 and g of negative 4. The only thing that's changing is the x value, right? And plus, even then, the x is not changing its value in terms of the magnitude. They're just changing the sign. But once again, what are you doing with the x? You're squaring the x in the equation, right? So does it matter if your thing is negative or positive? Because if you square it, it'll be positive anyway, right? So what I'm trying to say is this. Just worry about that x squared term, right? Because that's the only thing you're changing in terms of the sign, right? I mean, 4 squared, or x squared, right? That's 16. Negative 4 squared. That's still 16. So just by changing the sign, I mean, would that change anything on this equation? Probably not, right? So if g of 4 is 8, what can you guess? G of negative 4 is also probably 8, because the sign really doesn't matter. The x is being squared. So please, don't take the 2-minute method. Please try to understand the principle behind this, and just make it a 2-second problem for your next SAT.